Can we use kink to heal? I'm here with Lex Wilson from blacktivist.wordpress.com. The link's below. And I'm Kathy Vartilli from theintimacydojo.com. And Lex, can we use kink to heal?
Thank you for asking. I think that's a great question. A lot of my work focuses on trauma, trauma education, trauma analysis, and through discussing trauma, I've come to push back a lot on what I call healthism, and this very binary and prescriptive idea of what health and subsequently what healing looks like and what healthiness looks like. And I think that there's no one route to healing. Many times, and I speak from personal experience and just in general, but with trauma, I think that often it feels very dissociative, right? And I think a lot of emphasis on healing from trauma focuses on getting back to the person you were before. And sometimes that person is unknowable. And so a large aspect of healing for myself personally has been mourning that I might never be the person I was before trauma, and that's okay. And that's certainly difficult, right? And has not come easy, but I think it's important nonetheless. And so I think healing from trauma takes many, many, many different forms. And I think that kink can be used as a platform for healing. I think kink offers a very, very intentional space whereby you can cultivate different experiences. When we're talking about trauma, which can be from sexual trauma, intimate partner violence, from military, the trauma of chronic pain and chronic illness, and all these differing sorts of trauma. So I think it's important to discuss what is trauma, right? And I think trauma is something that keeps us disconnected, right? Trauma, I think the etymology of that word means wound. And so trauma makes us prone to dissociation and really not connecting to our bodies. And so healing and anything that is healing, a big part of that can just be being grounded and being present in our bodies and leaning into what it means to be mindful and here and attached to the present moment. And I think that kink offers a great platform for that. I can't think of many other areas in life where I can call upon consensual pain. And I think trauma at its core is often a non-consensual pain. As a person who has chronic illness, I often feel dissociated from my body because of the pain that's occurring inside of it. And that's not a pain I've consented to. When I look at past traumatic experiences, those are non-consensual experiences, and I feel like my body is a place where I don't want to be. And so when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel my past trauma being called upon, I flee. I have this flee response. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, I've been here for the last 30 minutes. Oh, we've been talking. Oh, I didn't even know. And I might want to be connected to the present moment, but I just feel like I'm not able to. And so kink offers this platform where I can say, I really want you to hit me as hard as you can. And that's something I'm coming to terms with. That's something I'm agreeing upon with my partner or partners, and it's very, very, very intentional. And so and not that everybody has to do impact play, right? There's lots of different ways to kink, but it offers this space where I can be very deliberate and intentional about the things I want to happen to my body.
Well, you're having power over the pain. You're getting to choose.
Exactly. And things aren't happening that I don't want to happen. You know, I can go to my partner and I say, I want you to hit me, and then I want you to hold me really tight afterwards, right? And we can agree upon that beforehand. And that's really meaningful to me, where my chronic pain is not saying, hey, Alex, I'm going to make it so that you can't walk for the next day, right? That's not something I agree upon. I don't know how long it's going to last, and that's a very overwhelming, not positive experience for me. And so I think more than anything, what kink offers is, again, just very intentional, mindful space for you to be very deliberate about the things that you want. It's very communicative at its best, right? I certainly don't want to ignore the ways people have used kink to be detrimental to others or ways people have used kink to be abusive to others. But I think kink offers this really, really great, excellent platform where you can also renegotiate past experiences. There's a porn star I like a lot, Ryan Gosling, who has this really amazing tweet where he talks about how rough sex is this platform to renegotiate past trauma, right? Where you can say, okay, I want to consensually explore these really dark, vulnerable, and intimate spaces with someone I trust, with someone I care about, with someone I know supports me, with someone who I know cares about me, and we can explore these things together. And when it gets to be too much, that's it. It's done. Everything's happened that I want to happen. And so I think a lot of people are in touch with the ways fantasy and kink and BDSM, whatever have you, can be platforms for healing and intentionality.
I think that's beautiful and wonderful, and I'm not particularly kinky, but I had childhood sexual abuse, and I did therapy for 20 years, and I understood it really well, but it was still in my body, and it was somatic experiencing that really got it out. And I think for me, the analogy is if you have an oil-based stain, you can't get it out with a water-based soap. Like you have to sometimes walk the walk. And I've worked with thousands of clients that have trauma backgrounds, and a lot of them have explored different aspects of this, and some of them found it really healing and some of them haven't. So I think it's really important you're talking about this.
Yeah, you bring up a really, really excellent point. I could talk about trauma for hours, and specifically somatic trauma and the way trauma is held in the body. And I think a lot of, again, prescriptive ideas of healing from trauma are like, okay, that's done, that's in the past, don't go near it. And for many people, they find a lot of healing and, again, reimagining these things. They say, okay, well, I was abused in this way, and through fantasy, I'm going to reclaim this. I'm going to do this again, but now it's on my terms. And that's very, very powerful. And you also have other people who say, when I was a kid, I got bullied really, really badly every day, and I never want to hear these terms. And that's okay, too, right? As long as we're choosing it. And so I think also the mindfulness of BDSM and kink as a platform really, really allow us to lean in to our bodies and what our bodies are telling us. I actually facilitate a project called the BDSM Trauma Project, where I talk to people who are engaged in BDSM and kink for healing purposes from trauma. And our participant had discussed with me that they didn't have access to kind of some past trauma they had experienced, and they would do this action with their partner. Their partner would kind of toss them around, and they immediately found it overwhelming. And they couldn't figure out why, and they were like, okay, well, I know I'm having this response to this behavior and this way my partner is engaging my body, but I don't know why. And through kind of discussion, they realized they had this negative experience of kind of being tossed around, and so when their partner did it, you know, it made them overwhelmed. And this was a trauma their body remembered, even though their mind didn't have access to it. And it was through kind of discussion from after engaging in this like kinky activity that they were like, oh wow, I realized that like my body had access to this trauma that my mind gate kept from me. And even though it was really difficult to confront, they found it very healing to kind of like peel back these layers and say, oh, this thing that had been obscured from me, now I have access to. And it was only after they had like engaged in this process that they were able to say like, okay, now I think my body is making me ready for it. Now my mind is ready to receive a truth my body kind of always knew.
Yeah. Now, putting things back in the closet and kind of leaning against the door really hard, they're still there. They're still haunting you.
Right, and we not even realize we're doing that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And I love that there's a lot of different ways we can get to Rome, so to speak. We can find different ways that work for us, hopefully. So I'm really excited to hear you talk. Your talk is called Healing Through Kink, BDSM, Trauma, and Illness, and that's at ConvergeCon in just a couple weeks. So, Lex, thank you so much for coming and joining us. If you have questions, please leave them below. And I'd love to have you come back, Lex, after ConvergeCon's over and we've kind of recovered. Maybe talk more about the trauma aspects of that, because I know a lot of my listeners are really interested in it.
Sure. That'd be wonderful.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.